The night I discovered the truth, my world didn't break quietly. It shattered with a scream only I could hear. I thought love meant safety. I thought loyalty meant forever. Instead, I held proof of betrayal in my shaking hands, and something inside me changed. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I planned. And what happened next still haunts every breath I take. This is where everything truly began for me. I always believed love was supposed to feel like home, warm and safe. But that night, it felt like a burning house collapsing around me. I remember walking into the room feeling something strange in the air, like the world was holding its breath. My phone buzzed, and in a moment of harmless curiosity, I checked the message that changed everything. What I saw didn't just hurt. It destroyed me. There were pictures, conversations, promises he once made to me, now given to someone else like I never existed. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears, and my hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. It was like betrayal stole my voice before it stole my peace. He walked in minutes later, smiling like nothing was wrong, calling me baby, like he still deserved to. I stared at him, and for the first time, I didn't see the man I loved. I saw a stranger wearing his face. I didn't cry. I didn't fall apart. Inside me, something colder and quieter awakened, and it whispered, "Don't let this slide." That night, I made a silent promise to myself. If he could break me without hesitation, then I would remind him what consequences felt like. Not with shouting, not with tears, but with something he would never forget. And as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, one question echoed in my mind like thunder. What happens when the one who was loyal finally decides to stop being gentle? The next morning, I woke up with a heavy silence inside me, like my heart was wrapped in ice. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Instead, I moved through the day calmly, almost too calmly, as if my emotions had switched themselves off just to keep me standing. I watched him laugh, talk, and pretend everything was normal, and every smile he gave me felt like another knife sliding slowly under my skin. But instead of pain, I felt clarity. He thought I didn't know. He thought I was still the same gentle person who would forgive anything. He had no idea who I was becoming. I started watching him closely, studying his lies, memorizing the patterns of his betrayal like a map I would soon use against him. Every time his phone lit up, every late work meeting, every sudden shower before talking to me, it all told a story I pretended not to hear. I acted loving. I acted supportive. I played the role he expected because now, pretending was part of my plan. I wanted him comfortable. I wanted him confident. I wanted him completely unprepared for what was coming. And with every fake smile I gave him, the revenge inside me grew sharper. But revenge isn't loud at the beginning. It starts quietly in the corners of your mind, where anger and heartbreak meet. I asked myself if I really wanted to go through with it, if I really wanted to become this person. Then I remembered the messages, the way he spoke to her like I was nothing, the way he promised her forever while lying next to me. I remembered how small I felt, how worthless, and suddenly, the answer became painfully clear. I didn't want to hurt him out of hate. I wanted him to feel what he made me feel. Invisible, powerless, broken. So I started planning. Carefully, slowly, like someone building a beautiful trap. One that looked harmless on the outside, but inside held consequences he could never escape. I gathered proof, gathered strength, gathered the version of myself I needed to become. And as I looked at him that night, pretending to love me, pretending to be faithful, I felt a strange calmness wash over me, because the most dangerous person in the room isn't the one who screams. It's the one who smiles while already knowing what they're about to do. And trust me, I was already smiling inside. He had no idea what was coming next. I started moving like a shadow in my own life, quiet but aware of everything. I learned every detail of his cheating, not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed control again. I saved screenshots, dates, places, everything he thought he had hidden. Each discovery hurt, but it also made me stronger. I wasn't the weak one anymore. I wasn't the broken one. I was the one preparing the storm. I changed the way I spoke to him. I became sweeter, softer, kinder than ever. I asked about his day. I hugged him more. I kissed him goodnight with steady lips even though my heart was bruised. He thought he was winning. He thought his lies were working. I watched him relax around me, laugh freely, sleep peacefully, completely unaware that every peaceful moment he had was borrowed time. I don't think he ever realized how scary a calm person can be when they've already made a decision. But even as I planned my revenge, I battled with my own emotions. Sometimes, late at night, the sadness would creep in and wrap itself around me like cold air. I would remember the love we once had, the promises, the laughter, the dreams we planned together. Part of me still loved him, and that made everything harder. I kept asking myself, was I becoming someone I would regret? Or was I finally becoming the person I needed to be to protect my heart? The war between love and anger raged quietly inside me. One evening, something changed completely. I saw a message that wasn't just flirting or lying. It was a future plan. He was talking about replacing me, erasing me like I was nothing more than a temporary chapter in his life. In that moment, every trace of hesitation disappeared. My hands stopped shaking. My heart stopped breaking. I wasn't confused anymore. I knew exactly what I had to do. And as I looked at him across the room, smiling like he still owned my heart, I whispered to myself, "It's time." The first move had to be subtle, almost invisible, like pulling a thread from a sweater and watching the whole thing slowly fall apart. I began by distancing myself emotionally, even while staying physically close. I stopped sharing my feelings. I stopped opening up. I stopped letting him inside my world, even though I pretended everything was normal. I became quiet, observant, calculated. I wanted him to feel something shifting, but not understand what it was. I wanted him uncomfortable. Not because of what I did, but because of what I didn't do. Then I started letting small truths leak into his world, truths he didn't realize were intentional. I'd casually mention places he had gone when he never told me. I'd reference conversations he thought I didn't know existed. I'd look him in the eye and say something that made his heart skip for a second, then smile like it meant nothing. I watched confusion creep into his face. I watched panic slowly build in his eyes. That was the first time I saw fear in him. Not fear of losing me, fear of being exposed. And there was something strangely satisfying about that moment. But the strangest part was how guilty he suddenly became. He started calling me more, texting me, checking where I was, acting like the loving partner he should have been from the beginning. He brought me flowers. He complimented me. He held me tighter at night, almost like he could feel the distance he once forced on me, now coming back to suffocate him. For a while I almost questioned myself again. Was I going too far? Was I losing myself? Then I remembered every tear I cried quietly. Every night I felt worthless. Every moment I doubted my own value because of him. And just like that, my heart turned steady again. The first real crack appeared the night he finally asked, in a nervous, half-joking voice, "Hey, is everything okay between us?" I looked at him, completely calm, and smiled. I told him everything was perfect. I told him I trusted him. I told him I loved him. And in that silence, after my words, I saw it. The fear of losing control. The dread of what he couldn't read anymore. For the first time, he was the one unsure. He was the one scared. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. Because if the first move shook him this much, he wasn't ready for what I was about to do next. The tension in the house became a living thing, breathing between us, whispering in every silence. He didn't know what I knew, and that terrified him, more than the truth itself. I could see it in the way he watched me now, studying every expression, every pause, every quiet moment, trying to understand what was happening. Meanwhile, I continued playing the calm, loving partner, while underneath that calmness, my plan was unfolding exactly the way I wanted. I didn't need to chase the truth anymore. I owned it. So I started pushing him gently toward his own destruction. I encouraged him to spend more time out, knowing exactly where he would go and who he would meet. I told him I trusted him completely, almost sweetly, and every time I did, guilt tightened around his throat a little more. He slipped deeper into his lies, thinking he was still safe. I watched him become careless, desperate, and strangely emotional. Sometimes he would stare at me too long, like he wanted to confess but didn't know how. Other times he'd get irritated over nothing, trapped between fear and ego. He was unraveling, and all I had to do was let him. Then the day came when his two worlds finally crashed into each other. The other woman started demanding more, wanting the place he promised her. Meanwhile, he clung tighter to me, afraid of losing the life he pretended to value. I remember sitting there listening to him lie on the phone, promising things he never meant, while I stood behind him silently, fully aware. The irony made my chest ache, not with pain this time, but with power. For once, I wasn't the broken one. I wasn't the victim. I was the one holding the truth like a weapon he didn't even know was pointed at him. That night, as he pretended to sleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, not with sadness, but with clarity. He didn't just betray me. He betrayed himself, and what was coming next wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be violent. It would be silent, devastating, and unforgettable. I whispered to myself in the darkness, steady and determined. It's almost time. Because when the collapse finally came, I wanted him to feel it exactly the way I did. Slow, suffocating, and impossible to escape. The day I chose wasn't accidental. It was perfectly timed, carefully planned, and cruelly poetic. I picked a moment when he felt the safest, surrounded by friends, comfort, and the illusion that life was in his control. I invited a few close people over, acting cheerful, acting loving, acting like the same forgiving partner he believed I still was. He laughed. He relaxed. He touched my shoulder like everything between us was unbreakable. And all I could think was, you have no idea what's coming. When the moment felt right, I placed everything on the table. Literally. Screenshots, photos, records, proof he could never escape. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't accuse. I simply set the truth in front of him and waited. The room went silent. His face drained of color. His hands trembled. Everyone stared. Every lie he built collapsed in seconds. And he couldn't run, couldn't spin another excuse, couldn't pretend anymore. Watching him choke on his own lies was like watching justice finally breathe. He tried to speak. He tried to deny. He tried to twist the story like he always did. But he couldn't, because I didn't give him the chance. I stayed calm. I spoke clearly. I explained how long I had known, how many times I watched him walk out pretending to love me, how many nights I slept beside Betrayal and said nothing. I saw the shame in his eyes, the panic, the desperation. For the first time, he wasn't the one with power. For the first time, he wasn't the one controlling the story. I was, and he knew it. Then I stood up, looked at him one last time, and said the words he never expected. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done, truly done. I walked away while he begged, while he panicked, while his carefully built world turned to dust around him. And as I closed that door behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Strength, peace, freedom mixed with the quiet ache of everything I once loved. But even as I walked away, one haunting thought followed me into the darkness. Was this really the end? Or just the beginning of something even more complicated? I thought walking away would feel like victory. I thought my chest would finally loosen, that breathing would become easier, that the pain would vanish the moment he faced his truth. But the strange thing about revenge is that it doesn't erase the memories. It doesn't erase the love that once existed. The silence, after everything exploded, felt heavier than the lies ever did. Suddenly, there were no more games, no more pretending, just emptiness and the echo of everything we had lost. He didn't disappear like I expected. Instead, he kept trying to reach me. Calls I never answered, messages I never opened, apologies that came too late. He begged, he cried, he confessed every detail, like truth could fix what he destroyed. A part of me wanted to scream at him. Another part of me wanted to collapse in his arms and pretend none of it had ever happened. But I didn't do either. I just sat with the ache, trying to understand who I was now, that I wasn't his anymore. Then something unexpected started happening. People who once believed his lies began to see him clearly. Friends who doubted me before now apologized. Even the other woman disappeared from his life, realizing she wasn't special. Just another temporary promise. He was left alone with his guilt, and the weight of it crushed him slowly. I saw it in the rare moments our paths crossed by accident. His eyes no longer held ego. They held regret, fear, and a sadness that looked permanent. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't the broken one anymore. He was. But even knowing that, my heart wasn't at peace yet. Because revenge may teach someone a lesson, but healing is a different battle, one I hadn't fully started. Late at night, when the world went quiet, I still felt the scars he left behind. I still questioned my worth. I still wondered why love can turn into something so painful. And deep inside, I couldn't help but ask myself a terrifying question. If I finally destroyed him the way he destroyed me, then why didn't I feel whole yet? Healing wasn't a straight line like people like to pretend. It wasn't waking up one morning suddenly, strong, confident, and free. It was messy. It was slow. Some days I felt powerful, like I had survived a storm and found solid ground again. Other days I woke up feeling empty, questioning whether the revenge made me stronger, or just reminded me how deeply I had been hurt. I had to face myself now. Not him. Not the lies. Just the version of me he fractured. I started to rebuild my life piece by piece. I created new routines. I spent time with people who truly cared. I talked more honestly with myself than I ever had before. I allowed the pain to exist, instead of pushing it away. And slowly that heavy darkness inside me began to loosen. I began to remember who I was before betrayal shaped me into someone colder. I wasn't just anger. I wasn't just heartbreak. I was someone who still deserved peace, love, and softness, even if I didn't fully trust it yet. But healing is strange because it makes space for unexpected emotions too. There were moments I missed him. Not the man he became, but the man I once believed he was. There were moments I wondered if people can truly change, or if betrayal permanently stains the soul. I questioned forgiveness, not for him, but for myself. Did I forgive the version of me who stayed too long? Did I forgive the girl who believed in lies because she loved too deeply? These thoughts lingered like shadows, reminding me recovery isn't just about letting go of a person. It's about letting go of the pain they left inside you. Just when I finally began to feel steady again, something I never expected happened. A message appeared. Not from him, but about him. Something had changed in his life, something serious, something that forced him to face consequences far beyond what I ever planned. And as I read those words, my heart didn't feel vengeful. It felt heavy, because suddenly, my story wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about what happens when life delivers a punishment far greater than anything we could design ourselves, and whether I was truly ready for what came next. The message said he wasn't okay. Not emotionally, not mentally. His life had fallen apart completely. He lost his relationship, his friends, his stability, and the image he once protected so proudly. He wasn't the confident liar anymore. He was a broken man, standing in the ruins of his own choices. And when I heard that, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt something far more complicated. He finally reached out to me again. Not with excuses, not with begging, just honesty. His voice sounded weak, almost unfamiliar, like life had drained the strength out of him. He told me he couldn't sleep. He told me guilt followed him, like a shadow that never left. And then he said something I never expected. He admitted I didn't destroy him. His own choices did. Hearing that hurt more than I thought it would. For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. Part of me remembered every tear I cried, every lie he told, every night I felt worthless because of him. Another part of me saw a human being facing consequences he never imagined. I stood there in silence, realizing that revenge had never truly been the most powerful punishment. Reality was. And now he was forced to live with it every day. That truth was heavier than anything I had planned. He asked to see me, not to win me back, not to fix what couldn't be fixed, just to talk, just to face the person he hurt the most and tell the truth without hiding. My heart pounded as I thought about it. Was I ready? Could I stand in front of the person who shattered me and not fall apart, or worse? Would seeing him reopen everything I worked so hard to heal? I didn't answer him right away. I just stared at the message, trembling, knowing that whatever I decided next would change everything. Do I meet him, or finally close this chapter forever? I finally agreed to see him, not because I wanted closure from him, but because I wanted to close that chapter within myself. When I saw him, I barely recognized the man standing in front of me. His eyes weren't proud anymore. His voice wasn't confident. He looked smaller, quieter, like life had humbled him in ways I never could. For the first time, we stood face to face with nothing between us. No lies, no pretending, just truth. He apologized. Not the rushed type of apology filled with excuses. This one was slow, raw, and heavy. He admitted everything. He didn't blame me. He didn't blame circumstances. He blamed himself. He said he destroyed something pure. He said losing me wasn't what broke him. Realizing what he did to someone who loved him without limits did. And as I listened, tears finally came. Not because of pain, but because I could finally let it all go. I wasn't crying for him anymore. I was crying for the version of me who once begged to be enough. I told him I forgave him, but not because he deserved peace. I forgave him because I deserved freedom. Holding on to anger kept me tied to him long after I walked away. Forgiveness wasn't for him. It was for my heart. I told him I wished him healing, but not another chance with me. Our story had ended long before this conversation. What remained now was a lesson carved deeply into both our lives. He nodded, tears in his eyes, knowing this was goodbye. A real one, a final one. When I walked away this time, it wasn't out of revenge. It wasn't out of bitterness. It was out of strength. I finally understood something powerful. Revenge may satisfy the moment, but healing is what saves you in the end. Betrayal broke me. Revenge empowered me. But forgiveness, that's what set me free. And if there's one lesson my story holds, it's this. When love betrays you, don't lose yourself trying to destroy someone else. Find yourself instead, because peace will always be the greatest victory of all.